Okay, what if the most important subject you ever took in school wasn't about finding answers, but about asking questions? Today, we're diving deep into the International Baccalaureate, or IB, to really get at the philosophy behind it. And you'll see, it all comes down to one single, powerful idea.
No, really, think about that for a second. Not math, not history, not science, but the actual skill of questioning itself. This one idea, it's pretty provocative, right? But it's the key that unlocks the entire IB approach to education, and it all starts by flipping our usual expectations upside down.
You know, most of us went through a traditional education. It's all about content, right? Memorizing facts, dates, formulas, the what of learning. The IB takes that and just turns it on its head. It's way less concerned with what you know and way more interested in how you know it. It's a huge shift from just teaching content to actually teaching people how to be learners.
To really get this, we have to zoom in on the absolute heart of the IB diploma program. It's a mandatory course called Theory of Knowledge, or as everyone calls it, TOK. And believe me, this isn't just another class on the schedule. It's the glue that holds everything else a student learns together.
And here's what makes it so different. TOK is not about cramming your brain with more information. Nope. It's about taking a huge step back from your biology class, from your history textbook, from your own life experiences, and really examining the knowledge you think you already have. It's kind of like metacognition on a massive scale.
And this is the question, the one that drives the entire course. How do we know that? Students are pushed to ask this about everything. A scientific formula, how do we know that? A historical event, how do we really know that? A piece of art, how do we know what it means? It's such a simple question, but man, the answers are anything but.
The IB uses this brilliant analogy to explain it. Think about knowledge as a map. Now, a map isn't the actual city or country, is it? Of course not. It's a representation of it, a simplified version made for a specific purpose. You know, a subway map doesn't show you every single street because it doesn't need to. In the same way, the IB teaches that all knowledge is a representation, and it's always simplified and shaped by a particular point of view.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how do you make something so abstract, so philosophical feel, well, real for students? That's where one of the main assessments comes in, the TOK exhibition. This is where students have to find these big questions about knowledge out in the wild, in the world all around them.
So here's the task, and it's pretty cool. Students pick one philosophical question from a list of 35. But instead of just writing a long essay, they have to go out and find 3 real-world objects that connect to that question. Then they write up a commentary explaining how it all links together. It's all about building a bridge between these huge ideas and, actual stuff. Let's look at a few fantastic examples from real students.
So, object number 1. It's just a regular old Starbucks cup from their 2017 holiday campaign. The student picked this to explore a question all about how we interpret things and communicate. This student really breaks down how this one simple cup could be so ambiguous. So, the design had 2 hands holding, right? For some people, that was clearly a symbol of a same-sex couple, and it sparked a huge controversy. But for tons of other people, it was just a nice message about love and joy for the holidays. And get this, Starbucks itself just said the design was meant for people to interpret in their own way. So, this little paper cup makes you ask some big questions, doesn't it? Can ambiguity be a tool? Who decides what a symbol really means? It's the perfect example of a deep TOK concept playing out in everyday life. Now, let's see how that same kind of thinking applies to something totally different.
Okay, object number 2. A Chinese English dictionary. So we're jumping from pop culture right into the nature of language itself.
And what's great here is that the student brings in their own personal experience. They make the point that, yeah, a dictionary gives you a literal word-for-word translation, but there's no way it can capture the culture, the history, the entire feeling that's wrapped up in a word or a saying. It shows us that something is almost always lost in translation. And that just opens up this massive question, right? If our language shapes how we think, does that mean some ideas can only ever be truly known inside a specific culture? Suddenly this dictionary, this tool that's supposed to connect us, actually shows us the gaps it can't possibly cross. Pretty amazing.
And for the final object, we're shifting gears completely into the world of science and ethics. It's a photo that was used in an announcement about publicly funded research involving dogs.
This commentary just gets right to the heart of a huge ethical problem. I mean, this research apparently helped lead to life-saving inventions like the pacemaker. So this one object forces you to weigh the value of that knowledge against the methods that were used to get it.
And this question is actually one of the 35 official prompts students can choose from. This object explores it perfectly. Should we just not seek out some knowledge because of the ethical cost? Where do you draw that line? This isn't just some debate in a classroom. It's a real, heavy question, and it's all packed into this one photograph.
Okay, so this whole spirit of questioning isn't just locked away in the TOK class. It's actually woven into the fabric of the entire IB program. They do this through a framework called the Approaches to Learning, or ATL skills. The IB program explicitly teaches these 5 sets of skills in every subject. So, when you're in chemistry, you're not just memorizing the periodic table. You're learning how to think like a scientist, how to communicate your findings, how to manage a long-term project. The skills themselves become the main point.
And this isn't just some nice idea from a textbook. This has serious real-world value. A big survey asked corporations what they're actually looking for when they hire new people. And the top answers? They weren't specific degrees. They were these exact skills: communication, critical thinking, problem solving. It's a huge validation of the whole IB approach.
So, after all of this, all the questioning, the skill building, the TOK exhibitions, what's the end game? What kind of person is the IB actually trying to create?
Well, the answer is right here in what's called the IB Learner Profile. It's a list of 10 qualities that are the ultimate goal of this entire journey. We've seen a bunch of them in action today, right? Students as inquirers, as thinkers, as communicators, but it also pushes them to be risk takers, to face uncertainty with courage. And this is so important, to be open-minded, to really truly understand that other people, with all their differences, might also be right.
And in the end, the goal is so much bigger than just one person's academic success. The IB's mission is about creating a sense of shared humanity, of a shared responsibility for our planet. From this point of view, skills like questioning and empathy, they aren't just for getting an A on a test. They're the basic tools you need to build a better, more peaceful world.
Which leaves us with one last, pretty urgent thought, especially for today. In a world that is just flooded with information, misinformation, and now incredibly powerful AI, maybe the ability to take a step back, to question where things come from, to understand our own biases, maybe that's not just an academic skill anymore. Maybe learning how to think is actually the most essential survival skill we've got.